Hello everyone, Jeff Murrin here. Wanting to continue our discussion of the Iliad by Homer, specifically the Robert Fagles translation. And in this particular video, we are going to look at book 7. All right, so let's just jump right on in. One of the things that I find interesting about this particular book is that it just seems that there are so many echoes, parallels from things we've read before. You know, there's always some circular types of things in these epic stories, but you know, it seems like we're only to book 7, and here we have a lot of things that are lining up that, like, we've already kind of seen these things before, and I want to bring those up. So what we will see are soldiers putting down their weapons, calling a truce, sitting, taking a seat and letting other people maybe come up and challenge one another. We will see people drawing lots, like essentially names out of a hat or a helmet in this case, to do solo one-on-one battles like we saw earlier with Paris and Menelaus. Menelaus is one of the ones that steps up to do battle, and we will see that, you know, in the battle that does transpire, one person is wounded, but there's not this decisive winner that makes everything settled and everybody goes back to their respective homes, and everything's all, you know, fine and dandy after that. We will hear again Nestor's wise words, as we have heard before. We will see, as always, this is not necessarily specific to book 7, but of course the intervening of the gods in the human affairs. We will see a lot of recollection of Achilles, like, oh, we're going to mention Achilles, don't forget Achilles. Achilles is over here. Remember, he's sulking in the back because he chose not to fight because of his grievances with Agamemnon, but don't forget Achilles. We will also have a recalling of, you know, how we got here, you know, the whole Paris stealing Helen from Menelaus in the first place. And we will also have a recalling of the spat between Agamemnon and Achilles. You remember the very beginning where it's like, you know, you take my woman, I want to take your woman, because, you know, we got to have these things even. So all those kinds of things that have already been laid out for us in the previous books come back around in another way or a similar fashion in this particular book. All right. I'm reminded of a quote by Mark Twain, and I am paraphrasing here. Maybe I'm not, I don't know, but the idea is that history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it does rhyme, all right? In that we might see something from history and the exact same thing doesn't happen, but boy, does that not look really, really familiar. So let's jump right on in and see what we're doing here, all right? The first thing I want to look at is how the gods interfere in human affairs, all right? Because we see Apollo and Athena. You know, Athena rushing to help the Greeks, Apollo seeing that happening, and Apollo saying, hang on a second, you know, the Trojans are my people, and what do we need to do? So what we see here on page 215 is about line 30, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, about line 34. Apollo says, let us halt the war and the heat of combat now, at least for today. They'll fight again tomorrow, until they win their way to the fixed doom of Troy, since that is your only passion. You two goddesses, this is Athena and Hera he's talking about here, to plunder Troy to rubble. Athena's eyes lit up, and the goddess said, so be it, archer of the sky. Those were my very thoughts, winging down from Olympus into the midst of Trojans and Achaeans. But tell me, how do you hope to stop the men from fighting? All right. And so what we will see next is Apollo going to Hector on page 216. All right, about line 50, let's say 1, 2, 3, 54. It says, Hector, son of Priam, a mastermind like Zeus. Listen to me now. Let your brother guide you. Have all Trojans and Argives take their seats, and you You challenge Achaea's bravest man to duel in bloody combat to the death. It is not the hour to meet your doom, not yet. I heard a voice of the gods who live forever. All right. And so this is when we have the one-on-one challenge, like I was mentioning before, like we saw with between Paris and Menelaus. All right. No one seems to want to step up to do this. All right. You know, it's one thing to fight Paris. It's another thing to fight Hector. All right, so keep that in your mind. No one's really willing to do it. Menelaus does step up, and Menelaus steps up because, well, he's the reason the Greeks are there. He's the one who sent them out to bring his wife back. So, you know, there you have it. He is willing to do what must be done. All right. However, Agamemnon is like, dude, pump the brakes. Okay, I'm not sure this is a good idea. Page 218, line maybe 125. He says, "You're mad, my prince. No need for such an outburst. Get a grip of yourself, distraught as you are. Just for the sake of rivalry, soldier's prize, don't rush to fight with a better man, with Hector, the son of Priam. Many others shrink before him. Even Achilles, don't forget Achilles, dreads to pit himself against him out in the battle lines where men win glory. Achilles, again, far and away a stronger man than you. Go back. Sit down with the comrades you command. We'll put up another champion to go against this Hector. Fearless, is he? And never sated with fighting? He'll gladly sink to a knee and rest, I'd say, if the man comes through alive from the fight he begs for, dueling to the death." All right? So, what happens is, you know, there are eventually 9 Greeks who come up and say, all right, I'll fight this guy. And we see again what happens is they put rocks that have some sort of markings on them. They're individual markings, kind of like a certain token or an indication. They put those in the helmets, and then they draw who among those 9 are actually going to be the one who's going to go up, toe to toe with the likes of Hector. All right, and we saw the similar type of thing earlier in the book, and we see it here again. In this one. And the winner in this particular case is Ajax. All right. Ajax, great, massive, tough, strong Greek warrior. So this should be a good battle between these two. All right. So let's look at page 221, 259, line 259. And now, holding that great shield before his chest, Telamonian Ajax marched right up to Hector, threatening with his deep, resounding voice, "Hector, now you'll learn once and for all in combat, man to man, what kind of champions range the archives ranks. Even besides Achilles, that lion heart who mauls battalions wholesale. Often as beaked seagoing ships Achilles lies, raging away at Agamemnon, marshal of armies. But here we are, strong enough to engage you, and plenty of us too. Come, lead off if you can with all your fighting power." A flash of his helmet as rangy Hector shook his head. "Ajax, royal son of Telamon, captain of armies, don't toy with me like a puny, weak-kneed boy or woman never trained in the works of war. War, I know it well, and the butchery of men. Well, I know, shift to the left, shift to the right. My tough tan shield, that's what the real drill defensive fighting means to me. I know it all. How to charge in the rush of plunging horses. I know how to stand and fight to the finish, twist and lunge in the war god's deadly dance. On guard. Big and bluff as you are, I've no desire to hit you sniping on the sly. I'll strike you out in the open, strike you now." So we've got these two macho, strong fighter guys just willing to stand each other up face to face and talk some trash and make things happen. All right. And in this, Hector is wounded. as they face off. Okay, again, it's not a fatal blow. There's not an absolute victor who is who emerges from this, and eventually, as it's becoming dark, a truce is called for the night. All right, and on 223, about line 330, that last little break there before the end of the page, it says, his helmet flashed as Hector nodded. Yes, Ajax, since God has given you power, build and sense, and you are the strongest spearman of Achaia. Let us break off this dueling to the death, at least for today. We'll fight again tomorrow until some fatal power decides between our armies, handing victory down to one side or another. Look, the night comes at last. Best to yield tonight, so you will bring some joy to Achaia's forces, camped beside their ships, and most of all, to your own troops, the comrades you command. But I'll go back to the great city of King Priam and bring some joy to the men of Troy and Trojan women, trailing their long robes. Thankful for my return, they'll go to meet the gods and sing their praises. Come, let us give each other gifts, unforgettable gifts, so any man may say, Trojan soldier or Argive, first they fought with heart-devouring hatred, then they parted, bound by pacts of friendship. It's as though there is this, we are enemies in this, we are fighting one another, but there is a mutual respect in doing that. And I don't know, if you guys have ever been in certain competitions, playing, let's say, football or basketball, or even competitions of debate, or, band competitions, orchestra competitions, or whatever. There are people who seem to rise up and sort of be your nemesis, who after a while you have to admit you're good. And maybe that was why you had that clash to begin with, is you recognized and respected what that person was able to do. And so that's what we have here. They're ending in some sort of mutual respect, even though they are enemies in this battle. We see down at the bottom here of 225, this is interesting because this is about line 396. It says, and now the Trojans collected high on the crest of Troy. They were shaken, distracted men at Priam's gates. But the clear-hearted Antenor opened up among them. Hear me, Trojans, Dardans, all our loyal allies. I must speak out what the heart inside me urges. On with it. Give Argive Helen and all her treasures back to Atreus' son to take away at last. We broke our solemn truce. We fight as outlaws. True. And what profit for us in the long run? Nothing unless we do exactly as I say. All right? And it's almost like one of the Trojans is mentioning here, guys, it's like we are in the wrong here. Okay? Because we have Helen. She was taken from Menelaus. That's a wrong move on our part. We have truces, we break truces, we are doing these wrong things, and so it's almost like, guys, we need to do what's right here. But watch this. It goes on to say, so he pressed the point, then took his seat. But among them stood magnificent Paris now. Magnificent Paris now. Oh, brother. All right. Fair-haired, Helen's lord. And he came back with a winging burst in answer. Stop, Antenor. No more of your hot insistence. It repels me. You must have something better than this to say. But if you are serious, speaking from the heart, the gods themselves have blotted out your senses. Now, I say this to our stallion-breaking Trojans. I say no. straight out. I won't give up the woman. But those treasures I once hauled from home from Argos, I'll return them, and I'll return them all and add from my own stores. This is a recalling of Agamemnon, give back Chryseis. Agamemnon saying, no, I don't want to. I'm not gonna. And as a result, the plague for 10 days that killed off so many Greeks. Here we have the idea. You need to give her back to the Greeks. Paris says, no, not gonna do it. All right. So here we have all of these things that are recalling aspects of previous books. All right. And so what we end up with is them following Nestor's advice. Nestor's advice saying to take the time here while the truce is going on and while the evening is here, that we bury and burn the dead. And I've talked, I think, briefly about the importance of that, because for the souls of the Greeks to be able fully to cross over into the underworld, there did need to be a proper burial of the proper rites, rituals, and burial ceremonies. All right. He also says what we need to do is build a rampart, build a sort of wall to protect us, between us and the Trojans. And also what we need to do is to dig a trench along that wall as, another barrier that they're going to have to cross, or figure out a way to another thing to deal with before they can have at us. Okay, so those are the things that Nestor insists that they do, or suggests that they do. All right, so that's where I'm going to leave us here for book 7. All right, I want you to continue reading and annotating on your own, and meet me back here at some point for discussion of book 8. So read that one, and I'll point out some things that I find important from it. All right, so in the meantime, and as always, I want to say happy reading to you.